That's one way to get it out. How's it going? This is going to be the first video of the FXLR rebuild series where we went ahead and replaced the kickstand. We swapped it with the FXFB Fat Bob kickstand in preparation for our damper rod upgrade. Now the damper rods is a great inexpensive way to give yourself an additional 2 inches in the front. So here is the stock damper rod. This bottom portion is what was in the bottom of the fork tube. We just kept it assembled so that way we know how it goes whenever we get the fork lowers back. And then this is the 2-inch extension from Tractor Die, where there is a bit of an upgrade. It's kind of hard to see, but not including this bolt, the damper rod ends about right here. And so you have this additional space that's going to give you that extra lift in your front end. Now we went ahead and added the bunking monoshock extension, and since that our kickstand was mostly leaning on the outer portion, that whenever we would park, if you canceled, you did the dyno park, that you could move the bike onto the stand and that front wheel would come up. So we went ahead and swapped it. We found a Fat Bob kickstand on eBay, fairly inexpensive. It was about $70. So all we had to do was remove the 2 bolts, take off this kickstand, put in the Fat Bob kickstand, and that was straightforward. It's extremely easy for that. A lot of the stuff that we're doing with the FXLR rebuild is a first for us here on the channel, where we've tackled some jobs on our own, and every once in a while we run into a couple hiccups. We wanted to try and do it ourselves, that we can get more familiar with the motorcycle. Should we have to address that issue out on the road, we could at least have some sort of sense and knowledge of what to do, what to fix, some remedies to address that issue. But there's also a couple times where we really ran into a hiccup and we would just put it back how we had it. Luckily we had the van, we were able to just throw it in there, take it to our shop, have them address it. And thankfully a lot of the techs and shop owners, they take a second to kind of explain what it is, where we went wrong, or an area that we can improve upon, which I think is really awesome, and it's helped me become a better motorcycle owner, understanding kind of just the overall mechanics, because with our Dyna, that was our first motorcycle that we ever had, and we had absolutely no idea. That Phil from Caliente Harley, he was the one that really kind of took the time to explain things to me and just, you know, and helped me with kind of wanting to know more about the bike. And because when it came with the oil change, I had no idea as to what to do, what to check for. And little by little we would do it, and there was a point where we do the fluids, and then we would take it to the dealership and have them do the point inspection. When I remember one time at a different dealership, the guy, the service writer, the intake, he looked at me and goes, "So you just want us to look at your bike and you're gonna pay money for that?" I was like, yeah. I'll still do it every so often. Pretty much, we're at 20,000 miles and we're gonna do the neck bearing adjustments, make sure that follow is correct. It's a little different here with the software that was on the Dyna, but it's the same concept, so we're gonna try that, and then next time we go to the dealership, we'll just kind of have them take a once over, make sure we did everything right. And it's just kind of cool learning more about your bike. But that's enough of that. So today's video, digressing and coming back to what today's video is about, we're going to be covering the removing of the tires from the wheels, which was a process. Initially we tried to do it with just tire spoons. That Motion Pro has a tire spoon bead breaker, but we didn't get that one. We got these Dr. Rocks, there's another one over there, but I don't want to get all 3, that you just kind of worked it over there, and I was trying real hard to push down, and I remember I saw an Amazon review that the lip of this one broke and snapped, and I was like, I'm not trying to do that. And then we tried just kind of jumping off the tire, and we tried stepping on the tire because I thought we were enough weight. We tried doing some sort of home remedy with a 2x4, but we didn't have anywhere to really get leverage. So we said, okay, let's just put that to rest. We're gonna wait. I think it was already 10 o'clock at night. And he said, tomorrow we are going to Harbor Freight. And to Harbor Freight we went. We ended up getting this tire changer bead breaker. This is the bottom portion. This was $30. That you can get the additional upper portion for another $30. So it's extremely inexpensive to kind of get a manual do-it-yourself tire changer if you want to tackle that. This was the first time we've ever fully disassembled as much as we've done on the bike with the fork lowers. That's the first time removing the fork tubes from the sliders in the bottom, as well as the tire removal from the wheel where we broke the bead. And having the right tools is definitely the right way to go. It's so much easier because with this, we simply put the tire under here. We got this little portion here. This is what breaks the bead. Set it on top of the wheel, right where the tire sits to break the bead. Press down, it broke immediately. Super easy. And then we got to removing the tire, which was an experience in and of itself. And you're gonna see in the video me trying to figure out how the best way to attack removing the tire from the wheel. The front one was fairly easy because it's a smaller tire, it's a little more malleable. We were able to move the tire over the lip of the wheel, and then we kind of worked it onto the other side and removed it, but that's not shown. The camera, the SD card ran out of memory, and we didn't get to finish that one. And then the rear tire, that we have a lot of time lapsing going on because there was a lot of troubleshooting, especially with the rear, where it was much more difficult than the front. And I'm over here trying my best to get that thing over. It was average. I won't say it was easy, it wasn't hard, it was just, you know, there. And trying to get the second one over the lip was extremely frustrating. And we tried everything, the same thing, and we couldn't figure it out. So we went to YouTube University, started watching a couple of videos, and there was one where once you have the first lip of the tire over the wheel, and the wheel's on the outside, and then you have the tire over here kind of half and half, that you get the wheel, you put a tire spoon over it to kind of break that first little lip, and then you put your body weight and kneel down on it, and after a little bit of just a little determination, we got it. Man, oh man, that was so satisfying. It just took so long. And then you're gonna see us removing the wheel bearings. This is the stock wheel bearing right here. It just has some anti-seize on it and some little grease left over. But with a lot of the stuff that we're doing with this video is we're replacing a lot of these components with brand new components because it's best practice in my opinion. That's what people mention is like, don't cheap out on stuff, go ahead and replace it. And we replaced our wheel bearings. This was, I believe, $12 for the set from JP Cycles. That these are just your generic wheel bearings. They look almost similar to the stock Harley ones, but it's a fraction of the cost because Harley charges Harley pricing. I think I saw in a forum for a set of wheel bearings was about 20 bucks, and then this was $12 for both with extremely fast shipping from JP Cycles. And we're going to be touching base at the end of the video on the other components that we replaced, just that way you can get an idea if you're interested as to what we're replacing and some of the reasons why we're replacing those. We also removed wheel bearings. That was a first for us as well. We ended up getting a wheel bearing installer and puller. We got one off eBay. Again, we never really shopped that much on eBay, but this bike build has seen lots of eBay purchases. That this is about $70 that we got it. You see them anywhere from 70 to about 100 depending on where you shop. Amazon, they like to be about $80. And this is the bearing remover. And you have a couple different sizes. I believe that there's two 1-inch and then the one for the Timken bearing. You have this washer, this nut, then you have the tool itself that's here in the center. You have another smaller washer and then the nut. Now it can be a little rough. The first couple pulls, it was just taking everything to just turn it. It's a good workout for real, 100%. But we were able to get it, and you hear a loud pop. I was trying to find it in the video. It's just kind of hard to locate with everything that was going on. And that just means that the bearing has been knocked loose. And as you pull it out, just double check to make sure that the bearing is pulling up evenly. The only thing that's going to be interesting is when we pull it back in. I'm curious how that is. These are your bearing installers. You have different sizes. These are for the different bearing. This is, I believe, it goes on top. And then you have your different size bearing installers, which I think is going to be the middle, but we have yet to really look at it. We'll address that whenever it comes time to install the bearings. And again, we will more than likely be visiting YouTube University. We tried breaking the beads on the tires with just the tire spoons, but that was a major fail. So we went out to our local hardware store and got ourselves a bead breaker. And so here we are taking our tire changer bead breaker that we got from Harbor Freight and piecing it together. That way it'll make our tire swap a whole lot easier. We'll see if this works. Much easier. Okay, so there's one. Yeah! So, with the right tools, it's definitely way easier. Where last night we were struggling, really trying to get that bead off. We had the tire spoons and it was just a pain. There we go. And so here we are taking off the front tire from the wheel, where it took us a little bit to figure out our technique, but we were finally able to get it off. Here we are with the rear tire. This is where it took a lot of our patience to figure out how to do it, especially that second lip over the wheel. And in this section, we have finished watching our YouTube University videos and saw that someone said, hey, put the tire spoon, get the lip started off of the wheel, and then just put all your weight down and just knee that sucker to death. And it worked, thankfully. There she blows. It's bright. All right, so we got the tires off. That was definitely a process. It was the first time we ever did it, and we've already learned a couple lessons. Will the install of the tires back on the wheels be any easier? Who's to say? So this project has been interesting because we went to Home Depot to try to get some hose for the calipers to bleed them. And I could have sworn I got 5/16 and a quarter hose, but when I got back, here's a quarter hose. This is several feet, I guess. And then we also got 1/4 inch of just smaller. So we got the exact same one. I think one of them was the 5/16 box. But what we used to use is we had something like this from Harbor Freight. This is from Tractor Supply Today, where a lot of times we would just get the length that we need, cut it, and just throw it away, but we ran out of it finally, and I just wasn't sure about this size, diameter, because this one's a lot bigger. That's what she said. So worst case, we just don't end up using these and we end up returning them. But we also finally got, because the front end for the fork screw is 12mm, and the only 12mm that we have is the short and stubby one, and we needed that long one. It's long and skinny. Now we can continue to bleed the brakes. That way we can get the reservoir empty, because we also may have stripped the screw a little bit. It was seized and we tried to just muscle through it, but we failed at that, and we just completely stripped it, and we tried to cut it with a Dremel to kind of get some more grooves to work it with a bigger screwdriver, but that didn't work. That actually ended up making it worse, which I didn't think was possible. And now we have a bolt extractor so we can get that out and get back on track, get back on schedule, and get this thing torn apart and get this thing taken apart and ready for paint. Yes, bro. Dude, this thing is straight up jacked up. Look at that. Here we're proceeding to bleed the brakes. That way we get all the fluid out of the brake reservoir. Once we've bled everything, we are removing the brake lines. There's still a little bit left in there. Completely removing it, and then to remove the brake line off of the bike, we're gonna be unscrewing that screw that's at the bottom of the triple tree. Now comes the fun part, where we're gonna remove the bearings. We picked this bearing puller installer off eBay. And we're gonna learn how to use it. I wish these were labeled. Time to remove those bearings. We put the rotors on just because we were unsure if it would damage the wheel, but after doing it, it didn't really matter how it did, but just for our practices go around, we went ahead and did it with the rotor on. That's pretty dope. First bearing swapped. A little close-up shot of what we're doing. Just takes a little bit of patience and time. Now that we have the bearing removed, show y'all real quick. It is inside that bearing puller. Again, we got that off eBay. We were gonna put the rear rotor back on, but we decided let's just try it without it. And sure enough, you do not need the rear rotor to remove the bearing. One side and the other side, and your wheels are ready for powder. So here are a couple of the items that we are replacing with the FXLR rebuild. So the fork oil, since we drained it, we're going to be putting new fork oil. We recently just talked about the bearings and how we're replacing them. We have a set of 2 for the front and a set of 2 for the rear. Just double check your specifications on what size bearings you need whenever you do order those. And then here we have some of the other components. Up top are the new ones, and down below are the ones that were on the bike itself. We have your, starting from right to left, you have your 35 degree, you have your 90 degree, you have your banjo bolts, and then we have our valve stems. Now you don't really need to replace your brake line fittings. I just did so because they've been on the bike for a hot minute. With the other brake line that we decided to go ahead and replace them. They're extremely inexpensive, about $3 to $5 per. And then you have your bolts that go into your brake. Again, those are $3 to $5. You can always reuse your bolts that are on there. We're just doing it because we replaced a couple things. Might as well just do a couple other ones. But do replace the washer that's right there, the copper washer. And then you have your valve stems. We went ahead and replaced them because we took apart the wheel completely. And when we were pulling it, we kind of pulled a little too hard right there. There's a little bit of a break. And just for peace of mind, we're in there. These were about $3 for the valve stem. So again, fairly inexpensive, don't cut corners. And here we have our gaskets for our fork lowers. Since we pulled them completely apart, it's good practice to go ahead and replace them. That way they're all brand new. And here are some Lindell brake pads. These are their extremes that since the tires are off, we're just gonna go ahead and replace them. We have the caliper off in the front and the rear is extremely accessible now. Just gonna go ahead and replace them for the ultimate stopping power. And then here is our brake line. This is a 47-inch, just that way we had the proper fitting. We ended up adding a 45-inch brake line when we got the bunking lift kit, and we decided to go with our 13-inch Lucky Days because the stock line would not fit. And now that we're adding 2 inches, the upgraded brake line that we had was just gonna be a little tight, and so we wanted just to make sure we had extra length to play with. So we got 47 inches, and then with the brake line fittings, here are the ones that we previously had on the brake line. They appear to be a little bit longer. You can mostly see it here on this 35 degree one, where it looks like we're planting an extra 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. It's gonna give us more than enough length in the brake line. And with that, that's the end to this week's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and while you're there, bump on over and hit that bell to be notified of any future videos when they drop, as soon as they drop. Be sure and check out next week's video where we get a little more cosmetic lift. Oh, dude, this is dope. As well as changing out the clutch line, taking apart the forks. We take our forks to our local Harley. Thanks to Rolando and Worm for breaking that nut loose, because by yourself, getting that front 12mm bolt out of the front end, the fork lower, can be pretty tough. We tried a couple things, it just didn't work, so we said, let's take it to Harley. They were more than helpful. Again, truly appreciate it, guys. Thank you. So until then, catch you on the next video. Cheers.